Hello, boys and girls, children, fans and friends of the New 80s Revolution. We are back. It is day 397 of the quarantine. And we are still all surviving, I hope. Hopefully all you guys out there are healthy and have not been impacted by this thing. So far, so good here. We are trying our best to dramatically limit the amount of time we spend outside. In other places. We go outside, obviously, with the children, but, grocery shopping is very, very minimal. I'm going to dive into this Instacart thing. I'm going to go for it. It's just that they're so backed up right now that, if you want to place an order, you got to wait 4 days for it, which I guess we'll just have to tweak and maybe order stuff early and wait for it 4 days from now and hopefully not order stuff when we absolutely need it. So I have gone out to grocery shop a few times since this quarantine thing. If I'm masked up, if that means anything, it probably doesn't. It probably means that the coronavirus germs are sticking to my mask and I'm breathing them in, so I'm probably getting sicker. But I don't know. Whatever. We're not here to talk about that. We are continuing on, ladies and gentlemen. We are continuing on with the LJN Revisited episodes. That's right. LJN Revisited Episode 1. Of course, all of my LJN stuff is so warmly received. So, of all of the videos that I've been making since this began, the daily live drop-ins that I was doing, and then the G.I. Joe stuff, and even Wrestling with the Past, the LJN videos surpass those in views already. So if I could just sit down here and make LJN videos for the rest of my life, then I'd probably make more than $21 a month on YouTube. But a couple of people have asked about Play Action Championship Wrestling. Remember that when I would say, hey, we're gonna have some matches in the ring. That was really something that I wanted to do, but I never really figured out how to make it look right, and I don't know. We might still do that. Maybe as this quarantine goes on, if I get deeper into boredom, maybe we'll do Play Action Championship Wrestling. Who knows? But remember, at the end of that, it's still just a 44-year-old guy sitting in a basement playing with toys. That's what PACW is. So we'll see. So we're continuing on. We are continuing on with Series 1. Series I fondly identify as Series 1A. Series 1A. According to all of the documentation, Series 1 consisted of 8 figures. Sorry. But in my world, in my existence, Series 1 was the first 5 figures. Many of them are stamped 1984 on their butts. The 5-figure card backs is stamped 1984. And then, some of the figures from this next release are stamped 85. It's not up for debate. In my world, the first 5 figures was first 5. That's 10. The first 5 figures was Series 1. But not to confuse everybody, we'll still call this Series 1. We'll call it 1A. A good little chunk of figures. And remember, when I told you in the first episode of this, I got the majority of these. In fact, I got all of these for Christmas '85. So at Christmas '85, I had all but Jimmy Snuka. Okay, so there were 5 and 4 That's 9, I believe. So there were 9 figures released by the end of '85, or by Christmas '85, and I had all but one as a kid. And now looking at this lineup, here I am, '85, right, about to get into '86. My wrestling fandom is about to reach its peak. '86, mid '86 is wrestling is all I thought about. But I've only got 8 figures, right? That's crazy. What was I doing? I don't remember what I was doing back then. You know, how much of an in-depth federation could I have with 8 figures? I don't know. I must have had fun. So let's take a look at these 8 figures, or these next figures, these 4 figures. 5, if you count a little variant here. Would have been 6 if I had the third variant of the second of the third. 66.3%. No particular order. Let's see. Let's take a look at this guy. Around this time, he was released with Hulk Hogan in a 2-pack, and we can all remember. Now, again, with Wrestling with the Past, we're only up to '83, but when we get up to late '84 and early '85, you're going to start seeing this guy making his debut. And the way he debuted, a kid would eat up, but an adult would stare at it and go, what the heck are they wanting us to believe? But a kid would tune into WWF Championship Wrestling, and they would be pointing out, Vince McMahon and Bruno Sammartino, I think, would point out this large lurking fella, this Hulk of a man. They would point him out because he would go to all the shows. He would buy a front row seat, and he would wear overalls and a sloppy brown hat, and he would cheer his head off for all the good guys. And some of the wrestlers would acknowledge him. You know, some of the bad guys would give him a hard time a little bit. But a kid just thought, well, that's cool. He's just a guy in the crowd. But no, indeed, they were getting us ready for the debut, because, and this is when I think even a kid started to question things. This guy, this Hillbilly Jim, Big Jim, as they called him in like his first like couple of interviews. At one point, when he finally made his debut, he jumped the barrier. He jumped the barrier, got in the ring, and saved Hulk Hogan from a beatdown. And nothing happened to him. Security didn't come running out and tackle him and pummel him and drag him to the back and pummel him some more. No, this guy was allowed to jump the barrier, jump in the ring, and save the Hulkster. And then from there, the Hulk trained him in some of the most memorable, hilarious vignettes I've ever seen. Literally starting from scratch, trying to teach this guy how to lift a weight, do cable flies, bench press. You know, this big strong guy couldn't get the bench press down right. And the cable flies, oh my God, you got to go back and watch that. I mean, he almost gets tangled up in them. It's hilarious. And then just a few short weeks later, he's got it. He's perfect. Well, anyway, of course, I'm talking about Hillbilly Jim. That's right, Hillbilly Jim from Series 1A. Hulk Hogan's buddy I think he's still affiliated with the WWE in some kind of a PR role or a marketing role, but Hillbilly Jim has been and look at that. Hillbilly Jim is stamped 1984. Now that is some interesting stuff. Hillbilly Jim, stamped 1984. Wow. Anyway, like I said, he's been affiliated with WWE for forever. He did have a little bit of a career before. This guy was actually known as Harley Davidson, and I think a heel. And I think he did some stuff in like Mid-South, maybe Tennessee with like Jerry Lawler, maybe. But he was around a little bit. And I think he was in a tag team, and I think he had a brother with the last name Davidson as well, and they were they were like the Davidson brothers or something, but he was Harley Davidson, which is very creative. Very creative, Harley Davidson. And I kind of wish that I've never really gone back and watched any footage of Harley Davidson, Hillbilly Jim, but I wouldn't have minded him as a bad guy. Not with the hillbilly gimmick, but maybe this Harley Davidson gimmick. Almost like a Brody Lee, what was his name in WWE? Luke Harper, who, by the way, is from my hometown and still lives here. And when he broke his ankle or tore his ACL or something last couple of years ago, I ran into him at a town festival. And I've been watching Brody Lee since probably for, I think, 18 years. He's been indie wrestling, and I've always seen his indie cards. So anyway, I think he could have been like a Bruiser Brody type of character, and I think that would have been also successful. But Hillbilly Jim had a fantastic run in the WWF. I mean, he was paired with Hogan right off the bat. So how much of a rub can you get, as they say. So looking back at the first 5, one of them came with an accessory. So Hulk Hogan, of course, came with his championship belt. So that was the first WWF LJN accessory. And here we have another. He comes with his gross, sloppy, stinky, leathery hat. Okay, so finally now we're getting some accessories included with this line. And nothing wrong with this figure at all. Great play pose, great figure, great character, fun little intro into his introduction into his career. Very fun weekly vignettes with him in the crowd, finally making his debut. And it was slow. They stretched this out over a month and a half or so, and we're gonna see that. We're gonna relive that on Wrestling with the Past. But the Hillbilly Jim, never really used him much as a kid in the Federation. Like I said, I would have preferred him as a heel. I didn't have much use for the Hillbilly as a face in my Fed. But I also never had the smarts to turn him into a heel. I don't know why. Maybe because he had a big goofy smile and big bright blue eyes. I mean, how can you turn that face into a heel, right? Next up, again, fine figure, great figure. I enjoy the pose. Stocky, just like this of his human counterpart. And again, we get another accessory. A great accessory. I used this guy a bit. I used this guy quite a bit. Of course, he's the tag team partner of the Iron Sheik. And I used the heck out of him because the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkoff had a prominent role in my LJN Federation, right? They were multiple-time tag team champions. And so Nikolai Volkoff did get a lot of playtime in my youth. And here we have that accessory. Great accessory. I guess the only thing, I mean, you can't expect companies to put out hundreds of accessories to go with each figure, but a Russian flag would have been nice. Maybe a little hole in his hand there for the Russian flag. I guess that's still something that can be done by all you expert customizers out there. But good figure, good play pose, good likeness, good accessory, got a lot of playtime. In fact, he got so much playtime. Here's another one of these fun New 80s Revolution childhood stories. I actually learned, not the words, but the sounds that the words made. I learned the Russian national anthem. Because Nikolai Volkoff had to sing the Russian national anthem before every match. And so from watching it on TV over and over again to then imitating it as me, Nikolai Volkoff, I learned the Russian national anthem. Now, I have no idea what the words are, but I learned the sounds of the words that sound like the words. I'm not going to do it for you. I'm not going to do it for you because it'll end up on some cringe comp, but I know the Russian national anthem because of Nikolai Volkoff. Okay? Obviously, he got some playtime. A figure that did not get playtime in my Fed, but a great figure nonetheless. I have said many times before that I was not a fan of this guy. Obviously not as a kid because he was a bad guy, but as an adult, and again, this always gets feedback, I do not see what the big deal is about this guy. People have identified him as the greatest heel of all time, which I agree with. I think he is one of the greatest heels of all time. Terrible face. I hated his face work in WCW and in WWF. I mean, despised it. His heel work is remarkable, right? Him chasing Hulk Hogan, challenging Hulk Hogan, always being the thorn in Hogan's side. The stuff he did to Jimmy Snuka was epic. It's iconic. It will never be duplicated. I give him his credit as a top heel. But people also rave about his promos. Best talker in the business. To me, worst talker in the business. Annoys me. Nails on a chalkboard listening to this guy talk. I don't know half the stuff he's saying. He's just spitting out weird cliches and analogies, and I don't know where he's coming from. I don't get it. He kind of like giggles and laughs and hops up and down and scratches his head a lot when he's doing I can't stand it. I can't stand this guy's promos. I don't like him. One of the top 5 heels of all time, but I don't like his promos. Anyway, as a kid, he made me mad when he beat up Cyndi Lauper. He beat up her manager David Wolf. He smacked around Captain Lou. He even smacked Lord Alfred Hayes on an episode of TNT, which we're going to revisit with Wrestling with the Past. Man, he was a great heel, and I hated him. When he assaulted Jimmy Snuka with a coconut, we are talking TV that will never be duplicated. Ever again. You're never going to get that kind of heel reaction, that kind of heat, that kind of, that's riot-inducing behavior right there, what he did to Jimmy Snuka. Of course, I'm talking about none other than the Hot Rod, Roddy Piper. Tremendous figure, great accessory. Unfortunately, an accessory that I would lose. Why, as kids, do we lose our accessories? Where do they go? We only play with these things for the most part in our house. Where are they? Why did I lose the kilt so many times that my mom had to keep making me bootleg generic kilts that didn't look like this, right? Why does that happen? Right, great figures, kind of got the belt there that kind of looks out of place, but I guess this is one of like 30 different Roddy Piper variants, which I don't pay any attention to. This one's got very bright red boots. There's a brown boot Piper. There's a middle of the road brown boot Piper. There's a slightly less than middle of the road brown boot Piper. And all the people go crazy about these stupid variants. I don't know anything about that. I don't care anything about that. Here's my Roddy Piper figure. And I never really used him as a kid because I don't know why. I'm sure I had some Piper versus Hogan matches. I'm sure I had some Jimmy Snuka versus Piper matches. But I didn't know how to wrestle with Roddy Piper. I didn't know how to use Piper. Let's see, how can I say it? I didn't know how Piper worked in the ring. I didn't know what moves to do for him. Because any match that I've ever seen with him, he's just kind of, poking people in the eye and just clubbing on them a few times and then running out of the ring and stalling. He's kind of like always the face or the heel in peril. He's always backing down, running away, and then he shoots an eye poke. So I never really knew how to wrestle as Roddy Piper, so I never really used him. But great figure, great accessory. The final figure of this sub-series, I guess, is unique in that it has 3 legitimate variants. Okay, I'm not into the brown boots and those strange variants, but these to me are legitimate variants. And unfortunately right now, prices of LJNs have skyrocketed. And so I'm not, unless I find it accidentally, I'm not really pursuing the 3rd variant of this figure. I have 2 of them. One of them, the original, makes total sense. The other 2 make no sense at all. Because we're talking about the Junkyard Dog, and the variant is his chain color. This is a good figure. This is a good play pose, and this figure got a lot of play in my federation, my childhood. And again, constantly lost the accessory. Don't know why, but I would constantly lose the accessory. So all of my Junkyard Dog figures as a kid, whether I got 2 of them at some, never had the chains. Just never had the chains. Piper never had his kilt. I'm sure I lost Volkoff's hat and Hillbilly's. I don't know. But the variants with this guy include red-chained Junkyard Dog, okay, and black-chained Junkyard Dog. And that I don't understand. I don't know why. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know. I mean, what's the point of a red-chained Junkyard Dog? Has anybody ever seen a red chain ever? Has anybody seen a black chain ever? No, it's a silver chain with a black collar. That's what it's supposed to look like, right? But we get this red-chained version. And if I was a kid, right, and I was in the store and I saw this, I'd be like, well, why do I want the red one? I don't want the red one. The red one is stupid. Give me the silver one. So I don't know. I don't know if these were short. I don't know if there was just a few of them made. I don't know if they all went out at the same production numbers, same silver, same black, same red. The carded value on the different color chains is different. It's higher for the variants. But I don't know what kid would want the red chain over the silver chain. It doesn't make any sense. I'd probably have painted it as a kid. But anyway, the Junkyard Dog, 2 variants, great figures, both also stamped 1984. Now again, that's interesting because these did not sell in 1984. There was no Junkyard Dog on the shelf in 1984. In fact, there was no Junkyard Dog until the end of 84 in the WWF anyway. So, I don't know. 1984, Junkyard Dog, I don't know. But let's see what Volkoff is stamped. Volkoff is stamped 84. Hillbilly Jim is stamped 84. And Piper is stamped 84. So I guess there's no doubt that these guys were in some kind of production stage in 1984. JYD had to be late 84 because that's when he got into the WWF. So good stuff. That's it. That's Series 1A of the LJNs. I'll continue on with this. It seems to be getting some love, so I will keep going, and I'll show off the figures, and of course I'll tell the stories, and we'll keep having some fun. That's it. I'll see you next time. Good night now.